Narrator, deep within the shifting sands of the Sahara, there's a silence so heavy, it echoes through time. Most people look at the desert and see an empty void, a place where history is just erased by the wind. But beneath the mud brick walls of Timbuktu lies a secret that empires, invaders, and extremists tried to burn for 7 centuries. 700,000 manuscripts. An ocean of ink covering everything from astronomy to human rights, written at a time when Europe was still struggling through the Dark Ages. This is the story of the Forbidden Library of Timbuktu, the richest man who ever lived, and the silent war to save the world's most precious intellectual treasure. Mansa Musa. Faber, look at the horizon. What do you see? Faber the treasurer. I see the heat haze, my king. And I see a line of 10,000 men carrying the gold of Mali. Our camels are weary, but their burdens are the envy of the world. Mansa Musa, you see the gold, Faber. You always see the weight of the metal. But look closer. Look at the scholars traveling in the shadows of the camels. Gold is a fickle friend. It brings hunger when there's too much of it, and blood when there's too little. But the books? The books are the only thing that will keep the name of Mali alive long after the gold is spent. Faber the treasurer, with all due respect, sire, the merchants of Cairo are already weeping. You've given away so much gold that the price of the metal has entirely collapsed. We are making history with our wealth. Why do you insist on buying every scrap of parchment from every merchant we pass? Mansa Musa. Because a city without a library is a body without a soul. We are building Timbuktu into a beacon. I want the world to know that here, in the heart of Africa, the ink of a scholar is more precious than the blood of a martyr or the gold of a king. Narrator. Mansa Musa's pilgrimage to Mecca in 1324 changed the global economy forever. But while the world whispered about his gold, Musa was obsessed with a different kind of currency, knowledge. He brought back architects and poets. But most importantly, he brought back the vision of a massive, centralized archive. A.L. Murray. I sat in the courts of Cairo and listened to the tales of this African king. They called him a legend, a myth made of gold. But when I spoke to his delegates, I realized they weren't just traders, they were intellectuals. They spoke of libraries in the desert that rivaled Baghdad and Alexandria. I, Olamari, had to record this. Because if a man has all the gold in the world and chooses to invest it in the written word, he's not just a king. He is a guardian of the human spirit. Marco the merchant. I traveled from the ports of the Mediterranean, all the way through the salt mines. I came to Timbuktu expecting a city of gold. What I found was far more confusing. I saw a man in the market offer a fine Arabian horse in exchange for a single book on mathematics. A book. I told him, friend, you can ride a horse, but you cannot ride a page. He looked at me with pity and said, a horse will take me across the desert, but this page will take me across the stars. Narrator. By the 15th century, Timbuktu was the intellectual capital of the world. The University of Sankore housed thousands of students. But with great light comes a great shadow. The silence began to creep in. Invaders from the north, and later, colonial powers, looked at these manuscripts not as treasures, but as threats. They were hard evidence of a sophisticated African civilization that the rest of the world wanted to pretend never existed. Mansa Musa. Faber. Why do the scribes look so anxious? Faber the treasurer. There are rumors, sire. Tribes from the north are eyeing our borders. They don't value the madrasa. They see these scrolls as heresy, or worse, as loot. They think the leather covers are stuffed with gold coins. Mansa Musa. Then we must teach them. If they burn a book, they burn a bridge to the past. If they silence the scholars, they doom the future to repeat the exact mistakes we have already solved. Faber the treasurer. You cannot teach a man who has already decided you have nothing to say. We have to protect them, sire. If the city falls, the books must vanish. Narrator. And vanish they did. For centuries, the manuscripts of Timbuktu became a forbidden treasure. As empires rose and fell, and as colonial forces sought to wipe the slate of African history clean, the families of Timbuktu entered into a sacred pact of silence. A.L. Amari. History is a fragile thing. It's not what happened that survives. It's what is written down and hidden away. I feared that the world would forget that here, in the sand, men were calculating the movement of the planets and the ethics of trade, while others were still fighting with clubs. Marco the merchant. I saw them burying boxes in the sand. I asked a local librarian why he was putting his wealth in the ground where the termites would find it. He told me, the termites only eat the paper. The fire of a conqueror eats the truth. We will hide them until the world is ready to read again. Narrator. Fast forward to the year 2012. That centuries-old silence was shattered by the sound of gunfire. Extremist groups moved into Timbuktu, declaring the ancient manuscripts to be idols. They began to burn them. They wanted to permanently erase the 700,000 voices that spoke of a tolerant, scientific, and diverse Islamic history. Mansa Musa. They are burning the ink. Faber. Do you hear the screaming of the pages? Faber the treasurer. I hear it, my king. But remember what you said. The ink of a scholar is more precious than blood. You cannot burn a thought once it has been shared. Narrator. In a daring midnight operation, a group of local librarians, led by Abdelkader Haidara, smuggled 350,000 manuscripts out of the city in locked metal trunks. They used donkey carts. They used boats. They hid them in secret basements. It was the greatest cultural rescue mission in modern history. These people walked through a desert of bullets to ensure the Forbidden Library stayed alive. A. L. Murray. I once wrote that Mansa Musa was the richest man in history. I was wrong. His wealth wasn't the gold he carried to Cairo. His true wealth was the bravery of the people who, 700 years later, would risk their lives to save a piece of paper. Marco the merchant. I finally get it. I used to think the desert was empty. I thought Timbuktu was a myth. But the gold was the myth. The reality is the word. You can burn a city, you can bury a library, but you cannot kill the silence of the desert once it begins to speak. Narrator. Today, those surviving manuscripts are being digitized for the world to see. These documents cover everything from the cure for snake bites to the legal rights of women. They are a mirror held up to the modern world, proving once and for all that African history was never a void. It was a library. Mansa Musa. Faber, the gold is gone. My empire is a memory. But listen. Can you hear it? Faber the treasurer. Hear what, sire? Mansa Musa. The sound of a page turning. Somewhere, a child is reading what we saved. The silence is finally over. Narrator. The Forbidden Library of Timbuktu is no longer a secret. It stands as a testament to human resilience. They tried to burn the truth, but they forgot one crucial thing. Truth, like the desert sand, is impossible to consume entirely. It simply waits for the wind to shift. And the wind has finally shifted. A. L. Murray. Let it be recorded. In the heart of the Sahara, the mind of man reached for the stars. And though the fires rose high, the ink ran deeper. Marco the merchant. I think I'll sell my horses. I'm going to buy a pen. Because now I know which one travels further. Narrator. 700,000 manuscripts. One empire. 1,000 years of wisdom. Timbuktu stands not as a monument to what was lost, but as a victory for what was saved. The silence has been broken. The forbidden is now free.